Welcome to this quick review here of the Aranthian Succession, the Vaults of Temenos. So normally when I'm looking at new content, I check out GMG, I'll check out a few of the places that get review copies. This one didn't get out there for some reason, and to date, only Commander-Chief's Gate has really reviewed it in any sort of detail. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't yet. He goes into a lot more detail than I'm going to go through here. But he didn't actually flick through it, which is kind of what I'm going to be looking at. The other place I saw looking at some coverage on it was Wellywood Wargaming. But again, that was like 2 weeks ago, so that was kind of a review of the comments on it. So this is the second book in the Aranthian Succession, which is the new lore and background for Necromunda, I guess. It all kicked off in Cinderak Burning, and in that, the basic story is something's after happening. Lord Helmar, who is the leader of Necromunda, had an attempted assassination kicking off stuff. Now, it also factors into the modern 40k lore. So we have the Great Darkness, which was the giant rift across the galaxy that kind of kicked off the new part of where we are. So this is bringing Necromunda up to date. So the first one was quite exciting. It had a cool campaign that kind of crossed over the normal in-hive style with the Ash Wastes. So the Ash Waste big box came out, and we got to use some vehicles, which is pretty cool. And this is a campaign that kind of incorporates both. So there's a new campaign. There's some new tactics. So it's Goliath and Escher tactics was in this book. There's a couple of cool scenarios, some new characters, and then that's the style that the campaign did. But mostly this book is about the lore. It's about the story, where things are going. I loved reading this. This was a lot of fun. I've not played a campaign in it. I've not used a single one of the rules out of this, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. This is the second one. So this carries on that story. And it takes a different spin on it. So the Aranthian Succession still hasn't been kind of talked about exactly what that means. There was a old house, so a noble house called I think it's the House Aranthis, that are considered a lost house. Something happened to them. They got wiped out. We don't hear about them anymore. This might be their sigil. So their sigil is said to be a 7-pointed star. So still unknown, We kind of see these tantalizing images, and then we kind of have to work out what's going on a little bit later down the line. Now, I'm skipping on to this here. This lady here is Lady Credo. Oh, can I get her so the light's not bouncing on? There we go. This is Lady Credo. So she's kind of kicked off a little bit of a rebellion. So there is some shenanigans going on. She married into the Credo house. And Lord Credo is now dead. Let's not speculate too much on exactly how that happened. She might be maybe part of like an old descendant of House Aranthis. We don't know. But she's certainly shaking things up. The other mover and shaker, not in this book, the other mover and shaker at the moment is Lady Hera, who is Lord Helmar's 14th daughter, I think it is, and seems to be one of the most cutthroat and psychotic of his lineage. So, she'll go far. And we had that thread between them. So one of the things that you could do in the first part of the Aranthian Succession, the Cinderak Burning, was you could be allied to the Imperial House, or you could be allied to the Rebellion, or stay neutral. So either of those were two options, two choices. And typically, you got a few benefits, you got a few bonuses, but really it was just a way to get those special characters into the story. Now, I know Wellywood Wargaming did talk about this a little bit. This is kind of a new style where you're really getting into the story. So they've got all these special models that they've got released. You got rules for them, and in the campaign they turn up. You get to play with them, so it's kind of as if the big story is happening. So with the kind of old style, your gangs were just random nobodies, and you weren't really connected to what was going on in the greater hive, but instead you just had your tiny little part of the underhive that you all fought over. And uh, either style is good, to be honest. Just because you're having these big characters turn up in your campaign games here doesn't necessarily mean that you're one of the big movers and shakers, or if you want, it could be, I guess. But so this particular book is called the Vaults of Temenos. I haven't read through all of this. I only just got it, so this is more of a flick through for me, rather than a detailed kind of lore dive. The theme of this seems to be more around the kind of Cawdor Imperial Fate. So the new campaign that they have in here is all about relics, and this expands the options out for House Cawdor. House Cador? House Cawdor? Who knows? So, like they did with the Goliath and the Escher in the first book, in this book we are going to get some rules down the line for a Cawdor vehicles, and there are a few options for the Enforcers, which was a surprise. I was expecting one of the other houses, to be honest. This is Lady Hera Helmar, 13th daughter, not 14th, 13th. And I suspect if I move on a few pages, she'll then be the 12th and the 11th. She is quickly climbing through the ranks the most bloody way possible. Her model is available from Forge World at the moment. It is a thing of beauty. I think if you're interested in this, getting her and getting Lady Credo seem like the good places to go. They're kind of two signature characters that could turn up. All right, yeah. So the story, obviously, we've got a bit of background, and it looks like there's been a big push on faith. So we're having a lot more religious elements kind of tied into the story. Presumably, and from my understanding, that's because Lady Credo is stirring up some chaos. She is actively supporting and fermenting this religious rioting. So yeah, here is Temenos. Not sure what the details of it are. It's nice to see the map. I don't know if we've actually seen this already. This is just kind of a zoom in section. I love the details on it. So they've got like gas coils. This is Grey Waste Hunting Grounds in the corner. Brain's Lament. Helmite Nests. Unstable Road. These are the kind of sort of details that look like you could maybe incorporate them into a Ash Wastes campaign. You would need to take kind of the existing bits that you had and move the rules over to new terms, new sections. But you definitely could. You could use that background. It's always nice to see more of the stuff. I love this art style. It's great. So it looks like that's an ambush about to happen. Okay, let's flick on a little bit. Don't want to go too long with this. So what I think is notable about these is how much background we have. Okay, so those are just fluff and stories. What's going on. Then we have these occasional sections that turn up regularly in the Necromunda books. So this is the timeline. So this is real punch. It's a quick paragraph explaining what's going on, what's happening. I can't give too many spoilers because I don't know them. Nice big zoom in on the Imperial Helmar Noble Lines symbol. Looking nice. Okay, it's the Pilgrim's Gate on the approach to Hive Temenos. Cool. Very atmospheric. Very 40k. Right, we get a new character. So it's the Prophet. So he's a new Outlaw House agent for House Cawdor. So the House agents, these are one of the ones where instead of rolling on House favors, you get to roll on this, and then there's a chance that he will join you for a price. So it's either going to be 80 or 160 for this character. No weapons, but has the Overseer skill. Interesting. Servo Harness in the war gear. Some funky religious rules. Right, this is Crusading Gangs. This one is kind of interesting. It's another option. And again, like the house favors and these house agents, these are all optional things. So it's not necessarily going to be available depending whether what direction your arbiter goes. I mean, there's kind of you can either strip it all out and go for a kind of a really simple campaign, or you can throw everything in and hope for the best. I think a lot of arbiters kind of pick and choose, and then down the line will kind of introduce things. So you may not necessarily have house favors in until you decide that maybe one of the players who's dropping behind has gotten a bit too far behind. Then open up house favors to them, and then they can kind of weave in these options. For the campaigns that we have in the Aranthian Succession, though, because you do have the option of maybe getting in one of the characters that you're allied to, it kind of makes sense to kind of go there and just go whole hog. Okay, so a Crusade, essentially what you get out of this is you get a saint or saint's blessing. One of your fighters becomes a conduit, almost a psychic. They get a bunch of manifestation powers, smite unclean, bless weapons, saint's grace. They're all religious. But, you know, it is 40k. The border between the powers you will get from, you know, the Imperial Faith versus from a Chaos God are, it's a matter of perspective. This does detail a bunch of the saints of the Underhive, which I absolutely loved. So your conduit will be connected to the saint. You pick one of the saints, and this will give you some benefits and it'll give you some drawbacks. Like so many rules in many games, often what you'll just do is you'll look at a drawback that is kind of negligible, one that you can kind of do without having to worry about it, and then you'll just get straight benefits. So, yeah, this might be going out that line. The names are what I think are fantastic. We've got Cognos, the Saint of Quotas, Caliber, the Lord of Bullets, Shanks, the Saint of Knives, Gelt, the Saint of Coin, Glorg, the Gunk Saint, Vermin, the Saint of Rats, Very Necromunda. We have the rules for Axe and Hammer, another House Outlaw Agent. So, Outlaw might be something you are or not using. Outlaw gangs are ones that don't follow the rules. It's just one of those options. I can't remember what the opposite of outlaw is, but it's law-abiding. It's basically the gist of it. Right, and then this is the going into the campaign. The campaign follows what, you know, the normal thing. So there's 3 cycles. The initial phase where you fight over fresh resources, and you have a downtime in between, and then you've got your last few chunks. The campaign, so they do talk about underdog battles here, which is interesting. The reason they talk about underdog battles here is because you can actually take a campaign that was running in that first book, the Sindarak Burning, and then take it on, keep going with it. So if you're doing that, you discard all the sympathizers, and then, you know, you do your recoveries, and then you move on. And then they note that if the guy you're playing against is way ahead of you, you get just tons of extra XP. So it gives 1 extra XP for everyone in the gang, which is cool if there's a 400 point difference. It's not as detailed as some of the kind of player driven, or sorry, the options that some players have put online as options for underdog, or some of the kind of optional rules over there. Anyway, it's interesting that they have it. And here we have the options. So if you choose to support the Imperial House, you get some benefits, and Lady Credo's Rebellion is on the other side, and then online in between. The big one, there are, you know, extra income for the Imperial House. What's that? Some extra XP for the unaligned, and extra reputation for Lady Credo's Rebellion. What you're really looking at is the benefit of getting characters. So if you have the Imperial House, you can get one of the Scrutinator Primus Serverlin. She's a lot more detailed in this one. So the model's been around for a while. It's that cool enforcer model with the dog. We've got Lady Hera as an option, which I think is probably going to go for. Knocks on hammers there. And then if you go for neutrals, you've got the Ashwood Stranger, which is a new model that's only just recently come out and looks fantastic. It's like an enforcer model, but he's all gone rogue by the looks of it. He's been out in the waste for a little bit too long. They've added in Kale Jericho in here. I assume that's Scabs as well with him. They always roll together. And then during Killfist. And then on the other side, you've got Etheria and Styx, who were. It's a Escher bodyguard. And then you've got Lady Credo. And then in this book, we have the Prophet as well. So the Prophet, I mean, if I skip back, I'll have a look at his art. Because, I mean, look at that. We're going to be getting a model for that eventually. Hopefully it is well designed, because if that's going to be resin supporting an entire extra model, that could be tricky, but we'll wait and see how that goes. So those are incredibly powerful fighters. Like, they can really swing a game, especially in games where you've just got small numbers. So if you've got 2 or 3 on a side, and then you drop one of these powerhouse models in, it's going to make a big swing. But, you know, I mean, it's Necromunda. It's all a bit crazy and wild, and it's very thematic for what's going on in the story. So we've got a deck here. Oh, and so this, rather than fighting over roads or territories, although it mentions players fighting, is relics instead. So relics are a little bit weird in that they give you extra abilities. Yeah, here we go. So you give it to someone, someone carries it, and they carry it into battle. So they also, just for having it, you're going to get typically that kind of cash benefit. So just like having normal territories. So what's this one? I'm going to skip forward to my favorite one. My favorite one is Jangor's beard. So it is literally a beard. But yeah, wearing it once per battle at the start of their activation, the bearer may increase their strength by 1 for the duration of the activation. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, you take someone, put a nice beard on them, they're going to be stronger. And there's lots of cool things in this. You know, there's some bullets. The Crone's teeth, Gelt oil, a skull of iron, a footprint of a saint. You know, it's very Necromunda. But one of the interesting things about it is, if they go down, there is a risk. I remember hearing about this, but I haven't seen it. There is a risk that your opponent will be able to pick up the relic. So you have the benefit of going in and fighting with it, but, you know, there is a risk that you might actually lose it. Oh, here we go. So, if they wish, so you don't have to, during the Choose Crew selection, a player may equip any fighter with the Gang Hierarchy X rule, so that's going to be one of your champions or your leader. This will grant the benefit list on the relic. However, should they be taken out, roll a d6 on a 1. The relic gets added to the stake. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose it, but it does mean if your guy with the relic goes down, you get really unlucky, roll a 1, and then you lose the battle, then your opponent's going to get the stake, which is very cool. And, you know, you will probably be fighting over a relic as well. So I guess if it's good, you're going to play it, but that's a bit of a risk. That's kind of fun. All right, and then we got the narrative scenarios. I'm not going to go through them in too much detail, because there are some story spoilers about what's going on, and I had a flick through them and I quite liked it. But okay, we've got one gang trying to protect a ridge hauler. They're really trying to sell a ridge hauler. A force trying to subdue an outpost and crush rebels within. A small group of defenders attempting to hold back a force desperate to break through and slaughter a large body of pilgrims. We've got some updated rules for the Scrutinator. I believe they have changed slightly. I think she's the same, but I think the where do we have it? Yeah, her Hardcase Cyber Mastiff. So for the Enforcers, you didn't have the rules in their book, but they did come in a card with her model. So they were kind of tricky to get your hands on, but it was legal to take a hard case. Now, I think they've toned it down slightly because it was very cool, which is a shame because the Enforcers don't really have a lot going for them. But now I think the rules are in here somewhere. I think they're probably at the back. They always do these summaries for everything in here at the back, because I often feel like it's sometimes a bit of a waste, because there's a lot of duplication. Not seeing it there. See there. Maybe I don't have it in here. Ooh, we'll get into this stuff later. All right, well, I'll keep an eye out for it as we go on. KB88. All right. Okay, so yeah, we've mentioned. Okay, so this one is a gang taking advantage of an ash storm to attack a settlement in the wastes. So we are getting a mix of ash storm and not. And actually, that first one, which was the ridge caller one, was one of those rolling terrain ones. So you keep moving along, so you can kind of zoom along. We have Death in the Plaza. Small group take advantage of an isolated fighter to try and secure a quick kill. That sounds interesting. Let's have a look. So the cruise is custom selection 5 and custom selection 1. All remaining defender fighter cards are shuffled to form a reinforcement deck. Interesting. So you're doing 1 versus 5. Kind of hoping you'll be able to do stuff. Then a race to the vault. So this seems to be what is going on. What's in the vault? I don't know. As I said, I haven't got into reading this yet, but I will be. But it does look like Lady Credo is looking to get something out of the vault. What that might be, who knows? And yeah, this one, 2 gangs race to be the first to reach the end of a tunnel network. So presumably trying to get to the gates to open, get whatever's inside. Daring rescue, a gang tries to rescue one of their own from captivity. I think they seem to have a variation of this in most of the books they do. This is just to kind of have the option for after one of your fighters gets captured. And those are all of the options. So, like with most campaigns, they do have a scenario selection table. So you can see here. So the ones that you're typically going to use. So there's a choice, 2, 3. There's convoy or storm battle, pacification of just falls or death in the plaza. So I suspect, looking at the names of these, I suspect these are 1 ash wastes and 1 normal style in the corridors. Should remember what that's called. But it means, if you wanted to, you could play this all ash wastes, or you could play it all not ash wastes. All right, now we're kind of getting into the chunk, the meat, which is the extra rules. Wild. Okay, so we've got a Cawdor Road Preacher and a Redemptionist Road Preacher. Ash wastes need drivers. That's what we have here. So there were generic drivers already, but this kind of puts a bit of a twist on it. Way Brethren. I think the Way Brethren are the guys. Yeah, these are specific for the Ridge Walkers. So these are kind of Ridge Riders. Kind of cool. Here we go. Here's the hard case. Cyber Mastiff, Exotic Beast. So you can have up to 2. That's pretty cool. It is an exotic beast, so it gets attached to someone. Okay. Okay, and then this is the brute for the enforcers. So this is a big guy. Okay, was that just for... So this didn't actually say it was just for enforcers. So can anyone take the... Okay, no, it says, okay. So this is being specifically added to the enforcer squad equipment list. So this isn't for everyone, right? And then same with this one. This is only Palanite enforcer gangs only. So where most people would have been using the drilling, the digger, the big bug thing. Rain. And then we got some rules for the Iron Crawler. So the Iron Crawler is, I think we kind of see it back here, is the big Forge World resin option that you can get. It is a large chunk of resin. Okay. Got some tactics. Nice picture of the Ashwood Stranger. The Outcast Leader. Interesting to see what that's about. And then we've got a section on alliances. Okay. So again, alliance is one of those optional rules. It can actually build things quite wildly. And we're adding 2 new ones. So we've got the Imperial House. Is it just the one? I thought there was 2. Okay, so we've got the Imperial House for the Palanite Enforcers, and they get the Enforcer Bodyguards. So these are two more impressive Enforcers that are there to take hits. So I can see here they've got the Peerless Bodyguard special rule. If whoever they're bodyguarding takes a hit, they can take it instead, which is pretty cool. They also have disintegration guns. Man, look at that. These things look kind of terrifying. Okay. These bridge walkers look cool. Some new models. So we've seen those. I think these are out in Forge already. Yeah, I think everything here. And these guys are in plastic, which is very cool. Unexpected to put in plastic. Okay, let's quickly glance through here. Disintegration guns, 24 range, strength 5, AP -3, 2 damage, rapid fire 1, scarce, sever, unstable. Yep, that sounds kind of terrifying. And that's it. That's everything in the book, so just a bunch of rules. You know, it's cool. As I said, I've already got the first book. So for me, I am thrilled to see the story continuing. It is rounding out options for the different factions. So in this case, Cawdor and the Enforcers of all places. Kind of a little surprising there. And we're getting a few interesting extra characters. So if we say we had... So we've got the Prophet, Axe and Hammer, and Durgan Killfist, and Scrutinator Primus Servaline. So actually, we're getting 2 for the Goliath gang, which is kind of interesting. I kind of feel like maybe some of those have been repeated, though. I'm pretty sure the Servaline has turned up somewhere else. And so, I mean, there's a certain amount of repetition going on here. I mean, the narrative scenarios are very cool, and I'm a big fan of the story versions of them. So rather than just playing them in a campaign, you can actually pick out. So yeah, this one here, like if you play it as Cawdor being attacked by nomads, that's an exact what's after happening in the kind of main storyline. So there's a lot of kind of cool feature battles, if that makes sense. And it gives you an excuse to use all the extra models. So did we have one particular interest? Yeah, I mean, like it has people's names. It says use Lady Credo in this one, use the Enforcer Sanctioner in this one. Yeah, it's cool. But I mean, there's a certain amount of repetition. The campaign system is interesting. I'm not sure if it kind of really addresses any issues per se. It's just a new spin. If you get lucky with a cool relic, you can have a cool story. Similarly with the option around the crusading. I mean, is there a reason not to crusade? There probably isn't if you pick the right saint. Let me see what the downsides are. Thou shalt fulfill thine quotas. This is for the Saint of Quotas. If the pledge gang does not earn at least 50 credits from its territories, crusading gang is sanctioned. And in this case, territories will be your relics. So, I mean, you could get bad luck on a roll. And if you do get sanctioned, I think you just have to pay a little bit more and you lose the abilities that you have access to. I mean, you want to be making cash anyway, so that's something you're always going to be trying doing. And there might be different options there. But I mean, that's kind of where Necromunda lives and dies, right? It's got all of these cool, fun bits and pieces, lots of different options, and you kind of get to play it your own way and enjoy it how you want. I'm loving what I've had out of this book so far. It is going to sit in my nightstand, and I am going to read the hell out of it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it, and hope you do too. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.